Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be discussing an Arab file. Today we'll be speaking about the Lebanese developments, and Lebanon has been witnessing a number of developments. Just on Thursday, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received newly appointed Prime Minister Miqati here in Egypt, where they discussed a number of issues, including extending the gas to Lebanon and a number of other demands that were within the context of their discussions. Also, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has been reiterating Egypt's full support to Lebanon during its critical time and stage. Egypt has been in support of Lebanon since the very start of its crisis, the fall of the government, this dramatic explosion that occurred before. Yesterday there were dramatic also explosions that occurred in the Lebanese territories. However, they were in some of the Palestinian refugee camps. We'll be speaking about the situation and the scene in Lebanon in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, first let's have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on Tuesday he was looking forward to enhancing the work of the Organization of the Islamic Conference through investigating Egypt's prestigious Islamic institutions which have credibility at the regional and international levels. During his meeting with Secretary General of the OIC, Hossein Ibrahim Taha, the President stressed full backing to his mission, taking into consideration the huge challenges facing the Islamic world at all levels, a matter which he said necessitates enhancing coordination and interaction under the umbrella of the OIC and the services of the Islamic nations. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held talks with Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid in the presence of the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry and Head of the General Intelligence Abbas Kamel on Thursday. During the meeting, President al-Sisi stressed that Egypt would continue its efforts to achieve comprehensive and just peace in the Middle East on the basis of the two-state solution and references of international legitimacy. The President asserted that such peace should be realized in a way that achieved security and stability and opened up prospects for cooperation and development for all the peoples of the region. President al-Sisi referred to Egypt's efforts to reconstruction in the Gaza Strip, as well as its continuous role to prevent an outbreak of violence between the Palestinians and Israelis. The American-led coalition against Daesh terrorist group has finished its combat mission in Iraq and will shift to a training and advisory role. Iraq's National Security Advisor Qasim al-Araj announced on Thursday that the combat mission had ended on schedule ahead of the end of the year and that combat troops were to withdraw. Al-Araj was speaking after a meeting between the coalition and the Joint Operations Commanders of the Iraqi security forces. Meanwhile, American President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi sealed an agreement in July to formally end the U.S. combat mission in Iraq by the end of 2021. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman arrived in Bahrain on Thursday, marking his fourth stop in the region this week as he tours the 6 U.S. allied Gulf Arab states. Bin Salman was received and greeted by Bahraini King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa in Manama. They discussed bilateral ties with each state, persistent tensions with Iran, the ongoing war in Yemen, and other regional crises. Earlier in Qatar, Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman discussed regional security with Qatar's Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. They exchanged views on everything that would protect stability and security in the region. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune met with visiting French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian in Algeria on Wednesday. Following the talks, Le Drian called for an easing of tensions with Algeria. Bilateral ties collapsed in October after French President Emmanuel Macron accused Algeria's political military system of rewriting history and fomenting hatred towards France. Macron also questioned whether Algeria had existed as a nation before the French invasion in the 1800s. After Paris decided to sharply reduce visa quotas for citizens of Algeria, Morocco and Tunisia and Algeria withdrew their ambassadors, banned French military planes from its airspace, and boycotted a major November summit in Paris and Libya.
Right, welcome back. And to highlight the situation in Lebanon and the developments there, we have over the phone Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations and researcher in geopolitics. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
If I may start with the visit of Naguib Mikati, the Lebanese Prime Minister, to Egypt and his meeting with President Sisi and Egypt's role in Lebanon and its support, as definitely hailed and described by the Lebanese Prime Minister.
Well, of course, Egypt's role in the region now is very crucial for Lebanon, because it's the only country which has this weight, political weight and geopolitical weight and diplomatic and military presence in the Middle East. Now, it's the most stable country in the region. So I think that Lebanon now wants to find an ally in the Arab world who could help them go through all the turmoil that they're living now. We have seen lately what took place between Lebanon and the Gulf states, and they have got the relations, diplomatic relations with Lebanon. It has hurt the Lebanese economy very much, and I think now it's time for reconciliation. And I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is the perfect person who can really mediate in offering the help for Lebanon and reintroduce Lebanon again to the under the Arab umbrella.
Very much indeed. That is part of the discussions, because definitely this is part of the developments in Lebanon, where Lebanon and some of the Gulf countries' relations have seen some tense to an extent. Now, one other important demand that the Prime Minister asked Egypt for, or asked the President for, was increasing the gas supply, or the natural gas supply, to Lebanon, where his country is in dire need for such gas. If I may ask you here about the Lebanese internal developments and the Lebanese internal scene, because the Lebanese internal scene has its own reflect on the whole Arab world, particularly at this very important stage and the start of the flourish, for an instant, on the gas pipeline of Egypt. So how do you describe the Lebanese internal scene, and how do you see the developments inside Lebanon?
Well, it is dramatic. I don't want to call it catastrophic, but it's very tragic, and no one could have imagined that Lebanon would go in such economic crisis. The people there are suffering on many levels, and I think that, as you said, they are in dire need for the gas supplies, and I think that Egypt would not hesitate to help Lebanon without any compensation. We would do it freely, because what we are seeing on the TV scenes, that the people in the streets are not happy in Beirut and from northern to southern Lebanon. But let me tell you something very important, that Egypt's contribution in offering the energy and the gas, it's very important for the security of Egypt and the security of the Arab world, because unfortunately we have seen the Hezbollah stating that they will bring all this energy supplies from Iran. And so that means that whoever controls the energy of a country would control the whole country. And this would not be acceptable for Egypt or the Arab Gulf states. We would not accept that an Arab country will be under the control of Iran through the gas and the oil supplies. We have all these energies. We can offer it freely to Lebanon. So I think this was a very smart move from Egypt to cut the way to Tehran and the Hezbollah that no, you would not control Lebanon through these crises. They're trying to take advantage of it. They're trying to blackmail the Arab world by controlling this country. While we're saying we would not hesitate to participate. Egypt is there. We were there from in all the crises of Lebanon. We would not hesitate to do it now again. So I think the message is very clear to the Prime Minister Mikati, and this is what President Sisi delivered as a message. We are your brothers. We are there for you. We will do whatever we can to safeguard your integrity and your sovereignty. The sovereignty of Lebanon should be respected. We would, as we never wish that Lebanon's sovereignty would be violated neither by Israel nor by Iran. We want it to be a sovereign Arab country respected in the region.
Dr. Sherif, you here pinpointed your finger on the issues that really is reflecting, the issues that are reflecting on Lebanon, particularly this internal conflict, and which is controlled by some of the outer side players. How do you view Lebanon amidst Iran from one side, Israel from the other, the Gulf area on the third hand, and how is that reflecting on the political scene inside Lebanon? What would be a breakthrough for Lebanon in order to be able to regain its control and strengthen its institutions?
Well, look, as you just stated now, there's three parts, Iran, Israel, the Gulf states. Well, let's start by Israel, for example. I think that Israel understood through the time that the wars in Lebanon was always not a good idea. They always didn't achieve what they wanted in Lebanon through military intervention. And now they understand that Egypt is the superpower in this region now. And there is let's not forget the gas club, which is initiated by Egypt. And the members of this gas club are Cyprus, Greece, Egypt, Lebanon, Israel. So we are trying to find this economic cooperation between these old countries, because whether we like it or not, Lebanon and Israel share the gas fields in the Mediterranean. I think that now the Israelis understood that, and that's why they started this approach towards the Gulf states, with the Emirates, with all the Arab countries in the region. So because they understood that there will be no military solution on the horizon. I think that the Iranians do not wish to see that. They wish to see the Arab countries and Israel always in war, always being economically in difficulty. So I think that Egypt now is guaranteeing the stability, guaranteeing the security in the region. Fortunately, there is a powerful and charismatic leader like President Sisi, who has his word very respected, is a visionary, and I think that he gives the advice to both the Israelis and the Lebanese on how to keep this region calm. And the Gulf states understand that what took place lately and the tensions and the cut of the diplomatic relations and all that, it was a very bad episode that we didn't wish to see, but it happened. And I think that it will be over very, very soon, because let's be frank, the Gulf states, there are plenty of Lebanese businessmen working there. So the economy rules the situation between the Gulf states and Lebanon. So I think that President Sisi would be the person who would reintroduce again Lebanon to the Gulf states. And I think on the long term, there are now negotiations between Israel and Lebanon on the gas fields. I'm not talking politically or militarily, but on the gas fields. So I think that this will introduce also the region into a new era of stability, of guaranteeing the rights of everyone. This is how the institutions of Lebanon should be guaranteed. We all agree, whether the Israelis or the Gulf states or Egypt, that
yes.
Hezbollah
Dr. Sherif,
has to be disarmed.
Dr. Sherif, just
there is a national army in Lebanon.
Dr. Sherif, the Adhan is on right now, and we'll have to go to it. But please stay with us, and we'll continue our discussion right after it. Please stay.